The definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result. And that's what we see going on with these lockdowns. 560,000 deaths are predicted from the lockdown alone. Yes, you heard me right. That's over 500,000 deaths from just locking down the country, with grim forecasts predicting 3 million unemployed to be caused by COVID. All of this will reduce each person's life by 4 months on average. The economy is us and we are the economy. You cannot separate the two. And yet your current crop of politicians every day says you get a choice. You can have money in the economy or you can protect lives. And the truth is this: not only can you have both, you must have both. There is no way of doing this because the economy is us and we are the economy. I'm not doing this because I'm bored. I'm doing this because this means a lot to me. I put my life on hold, my business on hold, my family life on hold in order to become your next mayor of London. I am putting everything into this. London made me as a man, as an entrepreneur, as a human being. It gave me everything, and I owe this city my life, almost quite literally. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to give back to this city and to make it a world-class city once again. I want to lead the world, and I'm confident that we can by the end of the year if I'm elected mayor on May 6th.
One, two, three. Listen.
Welcome to Real Deal, Real Deal, Real Deal, Real Deal, Real Deal. Joining me today are the happy pair. Welcome to Real Deal. Welcome to Real Deal. I am Brian Rose, and we are live here at London Real World headquarters to talk about how our politicians have failed us and the devastating effects of the long-term lockdown. Here we are now in Britain in the middle of our third national lockdown. And this is the strictest we have ever seen in Britain's history. This is stricter restrictions than even the 1940 Blitz when this city was being bombed. This is how bad it's gotten. We're not allowed to send our children to school. We are also not allowed to go to work. We are not allowed to leave our homes except for essential services. And of course, businesses are closed. And this is really at nightmare proportions. And we've been sold this concept of a lockdown by our mainstream media and our governments based on just a few numbers that they kind of bandy about every day and put in front of us. And by using those numbers, they get us to comply to what I want to show you today is very dangerous long-term behavior. I'm talking about orders of magnitude of lives lost from what we're currently experiencing, mental health issues, economic issues, and actually lives lost. And that's what I want to talk about today, because this is one of the numbers that you get to see every single day. And this is something actually that I took today from The Guardian, which is one of the many mainstream media publications. And you'll see here the numbers that they put out, which is the number of new cases, 52,000, the number of people in hospital, 30,000, the number of daily deaths because of COVID, just over 1,000 there. And again, those are daily deaths that tested positive in the past 30 days. And these numbers are thrown in front of us as a causality for the lockdown. But before we do that, I just want to say that the lockdowns were never intended to stop the spread of the disease. And if you remember back in March, we were asked to go through a 2-week lockdown period to quote unquote protect the NHS. Now at the time, we didn't know what was going on, and it all seemed like a good idea to be extra safe, especially in the beginning. The problem is we've now been trained that that is the reason for a lockdown, and we've been told that it's being used to prevent the spread of the virus. And what our politicians now do is they say, protect the NHS, and they use that guilt trip to get us to comply when it's in fact their fault from 10 years of poor funding that the NHS is struggling right now. And when you even go to the World Health Organization's own Dr. Nabarro, he says, quote, "We really do appeal to all world leaders, stop using lockdown as your primary method of control." He goes on to say further, quote, "Lockdowns have just one consequence that you must never, ever belittle. And that is making poor people an awful lot poorer." And this is the basis of what I want to talk about today. And it's not just about money, because by being poorer and by seeing that GDP go down, you're going to see how it costs real lives, hundreds of thousands of lives that they're not talking about and they're not accounting for. And, I think it was Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result. And that's what we see going on with these lockdowns. And I remember over Christmas, I said to everyone, it's very possible that next Christmas, 2021, we're going to be in the same situation or worse. And a lot of people said, come on, Brian, this will be over by then. Will it be over by then? Or will we keep using this same blunt instrument to solve a very complicated problem? And that's what we're seeing right now. Again, there are better solutions out there. And I've spoken with incredible people here on my platform, London Real, from doctors, scientists, Nobel Prize winners. One of those is Dr. Martin Kulldorff, who is a medical doctor at Harvard. And he has a concept of focused protection. And this is all about protecting those most vulnerable, like the elderly, and then also allowing those fit and able to get out there and work and live and create the economy that we need to power our NHS and to power our other services. And I want to talk about that today. Unfortunately, we get shown this number every day and its short-term consequences, and we are being asked to do things that have long-term issues based on these daily figures. And I'm going to show you why that is a big, big mistake. So today, I've got 3 parts. I want to talk about the cost-benefit analysis of this current national Tier 5 lockdown, the strictest that we've ever seen in history. The first point I want to make to you is this, and pay attention to the number I'm about to hit you with. 560,000 deaths are predicted from the lockdown alone. Yes, you heard me right. That's over 500,000 deaths from just locking down the country. And that's a number that we just don't focus on. That's a number that is greater than the total number of deaths that the UK suffered in military and civilian numbers in the Second World War. Think about that. Think about the devastating loss of life in the Second World War for Britain. We are predicting numbers worse than that just because of the lockdown scenario, and I'm going to go through the math with you shortly. We're also seeing grim forecasts predicting 3 million unemployed people in Britain this year, and I'm going to show you why this makes sense, which is this. The richer a country, the longer that people live, and the poorer a country, the shorter they live, and that's how these numbers break down to be so big, and I'm going to go into the details. The next thing I want to talk about today is the cost of mental health in a long-term lockdown. We've all experienced this, and I'm going to actually be asking for your input on all of my live feeds right now to find out how have you been suffering mentally from the lockdown. And let's be honest, we've all suffered mentally. I have, my wife has, my children have, my team has, all of us are struggling. But when you start to quantify it and look at the numbers, it's shocking, and it's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about as opposed to that daily number they keep putting in front of your face. New cases, hospitalizations, COVID qualified deaths, which can mean a lot of different things. And that's getting you to engage in a behavior that's crushing your mental health in a long term. And I'm going to show you why we see increasing depression with levels doubling nationally since our February pre-COVID lockdown conditions. I'm going to show you how we've seen a 73% surge in eating disorders and an even higher increase for our younger children and younger generation. I'm also going to show you how we've seen an increase in anxiety, in loneliness, in panic, in hopelessness. And finally, I'm going to talk about something that no one likes to talk about, and it's really hard to talk about, and that is a jump in our suicide rate. It's really approaching a 20-year high. Finally, I want to talk about what is the cost when it comes to jobs and the economy of the long-term lockdown. A lot of us know what's happening, but we are currently in our worst recession in 300 years. Yes, we are. Next, we've seen the highest job losses in history. And finally, people's savings are rapidly dropping, and we're seeing the lowest buying of cars and homes in a decade, and evictions and homelessnesses are now at nightmare proportions. Finally, not to leave everything on a totally depressive note, I want to show you my solutions. I have a plan for all of this, and the more I learn about politics and policies, the more I learn that the answers are simple and they can be fixed very quickly. It just needs leadership, it needs education, it needs innovation, and it needs a politician that doesn't use fear as a tool to control you every single day. And I want to talk about my policy of Get London Back to Work, a policy that everyone I speak to believes in and wants me to execute on right now. This is from people I meet in the street, taxi cab drivers, entrepreneurs, people in the theater industry, people I've had on this show from the Bank of England. They all believe in my Get Back to Work policy, and I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about how I'm going to put science first and use the data to make decisions as opposed to finding the data for the decisions. That's what politicians do now. And of course, I want to talk about how we can put our health first. These are my plans as your next mayor of London, and that's going to happen on May 6th, which is less than 4 months away. And I'm going to talk about how you can be a part of it. Before we get started, I want to hear from you. This is a live broadcast. I am going to be reading all of your comments out here on the iPad. So, be nice to me, but type in your comment right now and answer these 4 questions. First of all, do you think the current national Tier 5 lockdown, the strictest in British history, is the solution to the virus, and why? Next, do you think the long-term death count due to lockdown will be bigger than the short-term amount of lives that we are being told is being saved by the current measures, and why? Third, do you believe that lockdown causes depression or mental health issues that will hurt us more in the long term? And are you suffering too? Please be honest with me. I will be honest with you. And finally, I want you to tell me, do you think we need new leadership, new vision, and new ideas to take our cities and country in a new direction? Please type in wherever you're watching me now, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere, and they're going to be coming in right here to my iPad. As I said earlier, on May 6th, I plan to become your next mayor of London. I am so excited to take on this role and move London in a new direction. I believe that we can make London a world-class city once again. And so we've embarked on this adventure. We have been working on this for the past 6 months, detailed policies and videos, 12 different policies that are all on my website, brianformayor.london. And I've been going out into the boroughs, speaking with people and listening to them. And it's been an incredible experience. And my job is to find out what are the challenges of the 9 million citizens here in London, and then to serve them by solving their problems, period. This is apparently a new concept in politics, to actually listen to the citizens and make decisions in your best interests. Not in the best interests of the two-party system, not in the best interests of these career politicians, not in the best interests of their corporate donors and their backroom deals. I don't believe that's what politics is about. I believe it's about the best idea. The best idea should always win. And that's the way I'm going to approach this role. And let's be honest, as you know, we are being very successful, and it's thanks to you. If it wasn't for the support I'm getting here in London, in the UK, and actually all over the world, we wouldn't now be in second place and moving into first. And I'll show you the proof right here. This is a screenshot I took from Paddy Power, which is, I think, the largest bookmaker in the world, that shows me a clear second to the incumbent mayor. That's a 3-to-1 shot. And it also shows clearly that the conservative candidate is a 17-to-1 long shot. 17-to-1. This is a party with hundreds of years of history, tens of millions of pounds in financing, with an infrastructure, with probably thousands of people to make this happen. And yet, the people have already spoken. They prefer my ideas, which reflect your needs and wants, more so than this conservative candidate. And I appreciate that endorsement, but we are not here to come in second. Let me be clear. We are here to win, because that's the only way we can change the city. Imagine 3 more years of the current leadership in London. Seriously, imagine it. I couldn't live with myself. So we are doing everything possible to win this race. And once we win it, to change this city for the long term. I've got long-term visions for this city, 20, 30, 40-year visions. Again, it's unlike you've ever seen anything like this in politics, because I'm here to make changes for the city I love and the city that's given me so much. 20 years of my life has been given to me by the City of London, the best years of my life. My children were born here. My business is called London Real because this city means so much to me. And I'm going to give it back starting on May 7th, the day after the elections. So we're doing it. Next, I want to tell you about something super exciting, and that is the Brian for Mayor Battle Bus. It's true. You've got to get on the Brian bus. And here's a picture of this beautiful bus. And we are going to be visiting every single borough in the City of London. That's 32 boroughs plus the City of London. I want to come see you. I'm going to talk to you, and most importantly, I'm going to listen to you. It's a concept you've probably never heard of from your politicians and elected leaders. I'm going to listen. To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.